All right, so this little moment to talk a little bit about the approach that we took to into the making of War for the Planet of the Apes, the specific way I approach the movie and putting together the motion in the most realistic way possible. So the first thing I wanted to say is that the whole idea behind animation and visual effects in live action movies is to get the audience to believe that what they see could actually be real, especially in a movie like Apes. And in order to do that, I cannot just go inside my own head and say, oh, a gorilla moves like this, or a chimpanzee moves like that, or the apes are supposed to do this or that. You go to the zoo, you look at them living, you look at them interacting, you check Natural Geographics, and once you feel like you have a pretty decent understanding, because we are not scientists, okay, we are not trying to, in some shows you have to go really far, but not on all of them. But what we are mainly after is just a good understanding of how their mechanic works. So, because that's what you have to do when you try to get people to believe that what they see can be real. You have to study the mechanic of the structure you are putting in motion, whether it's a vehicle or a mammals or whatever, an insect, whatever it is. You have to study it and get as close to mimicking what they are and what they do as possible. So in the case of the gorilla, that's the first thing I did. I just wanted to go and see if I could duplicate, reproduce the way they walk, the way they move, and how that big part of the body affected the chest, and how those legs affected the hips, and how all of that comes together, and what it does to the head, and so on. So, like I said, grabbing reference and trying to match reference. So even just taking the time to find the right reference is not always an easy ride, all right? But you have to take that time as part of your job. And once I got that, I just to put that in my scene. Let me just look this. I just put that in my scene, and from there I try to animate to make it look like the gorilla that I have is believable, without any render and anything. And it's all keyframe, because mocap doesn't work always well when it comes to that type of motion. And once I'm happy with that, when I was happy with that, I took the time to understand what was happening in my reference. I have to understand as well that the proportion of the real gorilla and the gorilla I have for the movie are not the same. So it's never about copying, matching exactly what your reference is doing, but getting the essence, the timing, the spacing. Those are really important element when you're putting together a work cycle for your character. And so when I was happy with what I had on the gorilla and present that to the client, I went ahead and did the same on Caesar. And the idea here was to show that Caesar is not that young anymore. He's a little older. And if he were for any reason. Didn't happen in the movie that often, but if he were to walk on his four again, that's how he would have been, you know, just again trying to understand how an old chimpanzee would be moving, and if he's the the father, if he is the authority figure, how he would be looking at the other. So, and that's pretty much what I was trying to put together here. So you see how when he passes, how he's looking at us, pretty much like you have to, you know, you have to make a way for him, which is something I simulate slightly with the position of the camera, giving him the upper hand, just to, you know, to force that impression that the guy is bigger than us. Yeah, so that's a big part of my workflow, the way I approach things every time I start a movie, whatever it is. I just need to know my characters. I just need to understand how they would be moving if they were real, and once I'm and you can see, right, it's not anything close to being final. You know, the hands are not interacting with the ground in the best way, but it's just telling the overall story of the guy. We call that detailing, and that's something that you can do afterward, but don't let it distract you. Trying to have something really polished and everything is not what is going to get you to believe that it's real. The timing is mainly and you know, catching the right spacing is mainly what gets the audience to believe that what they see is, you know, believable. So once I was happy with Caesar, it was the perfect time, you know, to get into spreading that across the show and saying, yeah, if we want to have a quadrupedal walk for a gorilla or a chimp, well, we have these ones and we can try to play with them. But I will just jump ahead and go into the movie section. And before playing this one, this is a scene that happens at the very beginning of the movie with the battle on the hill, and the idea was to try to sell the desperation of the chimps in that battle. You know, the human caught them in their trenches, and they were trying to defend themselves, and they lost a lot of people. And the director wanted to show that desperation. And in order to do that, you put together a type of action that sells it. You know, you create a story in the story. A friend, I think it's gonna be this guy coming behind with his rifle, losing one of his friends and saying that and exposing himself because he really want to shoot at the humans, and dying, ended up dying as well. And that's just the way you know, you tell the story inside the story. There's a lot going on. Not everybody will be able to see it because the shot actually goes really fast, but you give a sense to the reason why this shot is in the movie. It's telling you what is going through the mind of the apes, some trying to escape, some trying to rescue each other, and obviously a lot of them dying because the human attack was pretty, you know, was pretty bad. And yeah, so that's what you see here. This is what we had in animation. So I make the overall layout of it. I animated most of the guys that you see here, and we had a few of the guys rolling on the ground being mocapped because it's really hard to put together in animation. And yeah, so that's part of the process. So this guy was animated by one of the guy at my team, and And yeah, so it's a collaborative process. That's another thing that is really important. Uh, um, it's not like oh, I have this shot and it's mine to do for myself. Especially in VFX, you can have a shot touched by a lot of people. Obviously, it makes it hard to claim as yours, but that's just a part of the business sometimes, especially when you have a massive crowd and you have to divide the shot in different artists, because there's no way you would be able to get that done in 2 months' time if you were alone. And I'm fast, but not that fast. So there are some chimps here and there for which I needed some help, and that's, like I said, it's the nature of the business. So when you have a massive amount of character, of really complex action, you always need to plan with a lot of artists to get that through. Yeah, so this is telling you that story here, and once this is done, we send that to the department which we call CRE, and CRE takes the animation submission and adds the fur on them, you know, and prep them for compositing and lighting to pick up and do their magic on it, you know. And same deal for the effects department, that will make the interaction between the apes and the ground, you know, all those bullets hitting the branches, all those little sparkles and impact. All that is going to go to the effects department, and they will all put that together to get to a final result that is give me 1 second, just to move away. Yeah, a final result that would be this, which is what you see in the movie. So that's after the lighting department went in, obviously the animation, the CRE, and then the compositing that, you know, that integrate everything well together. So that's usually the process that happens on every shot in the movie. The layout department start with it, you know, obviously imaging starts by getting us the plate with the right tracking of cameras, and once we have that, animation layout can then put everything you know, together, and animation put that in motion, and then it goes to CRE. Effects start working on it, and lighting picks it up, and compositing does the final render. So, and I'm even summing that up, that you have a lot more department getting involved sometime on only one shot. Paints can get involved, and simulation can get involved. It's a very interesting process, the building of a shot. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and it was informative for you. And yeah.
Hau, hapa,